I am Harper, 32 years old, and on paper I am one of the most powerful women in Chicago finance. My tax return says I made $450,000 last year as a vice president of commercial credit. But in my parents' phone contacts, I am listed as Harper the janitor. Last Friday, my younger brother texted me not to come to his barbecue because I smell like bleach. My parents liked the message. I just replied, understood. Then I opened my iPad and rejected his business loan application. Before I tell you how I destroyed their dreams, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit like and subscribe if you have ever been underestimated by your own family. I was sitting in the driver's seat of my brand new Mercedes G-Wagon with tinted windows parked 50 yards down the street from my childhood home. The engine purred silently, a $200,000 beast that my family did not know existed. To them, I drove a beat-up Honda Civic and scrubbed toilets for a living. I preferred it that way because it kept them from asking for money. It was 5 years ago when I refused to give my brother Liam $20,000 for a cryptocurrency scam that I decided to become a gray rock. If they only loved me when I was an ATM, then I would become a broken ATM. My phone vibrated on the leather passenger seat, interrupting the silence of the cabin. It was a notification from the Miller family group chat. I picked it up and read the message from my younger brother Liam. The text read, Harper, do not come to the barbecue this weekend. Jasmine says you will make the whole party stink. We have important guests coming, and we cannot have you looking like a mess. I stared at the screen and felt the heat rise in my cheeks. My blood ran cold, but I was not surprised. Then I saw the reactions. My father David reacted with a thumbs up emoji. My mother Susan added a comment below it. She wrote, Your brother is right, Harper. Last time you came over, that chemical smell gave me a headache. Stay home and save us the embarrassment. They were talking about last week. I had stopped by to drop off my mother's heart medication, which I paid for. I was wearing a protective jacket because I had just come from inspecting a pharmaceutical plant, one of the bank's biggest clients. I had accidentally brushed against a sterilization unit during the tour. When I walked into my parents' kitchen, my sister-in-law, Jasmine, pinched her nose and actually sprayed perfume in my face like I was a stray dog. She told me I smelled like poverty. I did not correct her. I did not tell her that the coat she ruined was a $3,000 Burberry trench coat. I just left. Back in the car, I felt the familiar sting of rejection, but I did not cry. I had stopped crying over them years ago. I typed 2 words into the group chat, understood. I hit send. Then I picked up my company iPad Pro. I opened the secure banking app and pulled up a file that had landed on my desk that morning. It was a commercial loan application for $1.2 million. The project was titled Luxe Fashion Startup. The applicants were Liam Miller and Jasmine Williams. The status was pending final approval. It was waiting for a signature from the Director of Credit Risk. That director was me, H.J. Miller. I looked at their application. I saw the inflated revenue projections and the collateral listed, which was my parents' house. They had signed away their home for this loan and probably did not even realize the risk. I looked at the text message telling me I stank. I tapped the screen and called my assistant, Sarah. Sarah answered on the first ring. Yes, Ms. Miller, Sarah, schedule a meeting for Monday morning with the founders of Luxe Fashion. Tell them to come to the executive suite. The director wants to meet them personally. Vanessa paused. Should I prepare the rejection letter? I smiled a smile that did not reach my eyes. No, Sarah. Tell them to dress nicely. Tell them the director is very interested in their proposal. They are going to need to make a good impression. And Sarah, make sure the security cameras in the elevator are recording. I want to see everything. Saturday night in Chicago usually meant high society galas or dinner at Michelin star restaurants for someone in my position. From my penthouse on the 45th floor, the city lights looked like scattered diamonds against the dark water of Lake Michigan. I sat on my Italian leather sofa wrapped in a silk robe, pouring myself a glass of vintage Cabernet Sauvignon that cost more than my brother's entire wardrobe. The silence in my apartment was luxurious, but my attention was focused on the smartphone in my hand. I tapped the screen opening Instagram. A notification popped up immediately. Jasmine Williams is live. I clicked on it. The screen filled with the backyard of the house I grew up in. It was a chaotic mess of cheap streamers and loud music. Jasmine was holding the phone at a high angle, trying to find the best lighting for her filtered face. She was shouting over the music, telling her 300 followers about her upcoming empire. Behind her, I could see the smoke rising from the grill. My father David was flipping burgers, wearing an apron that said, "Grill Master." My mother Susan was laughing, holding a plastic cup of wine. I watched as Jasmine walked over to them, shoving the camera in their faces. "Look at this spread," Jasmine shrieked. "We are celebrating early, because on Monday we become millionaires. Tell them, Mom." My mother looked into the camera, her face flushed. "We are so proud of you two. Finally, someone in this family has real ambition." Then my father chimed in, his voice loud and slurring slightly. "It is a good thing your sister Harper did not show up. That girl eats like a horse and never contributes a dime. We saved $50 on meat just by her staying away." Jasmine laughed, a high-pitched, cruel sound. "And she smells Dad. Do not forget the smell. I do not want her pine sol scent ruining my vibe. She probably would have tried to clean the grill or something. She has a janitor mindset." I took a slow sip of my wine, letting the rich liquid coat my tongue. They thought I was a janitor because I let them think it, but they had convenient memories. They forgot that I was the one who paid off their credit card debt 5 years ago. The memory hit me like a physical blow, sending me back to the day everything changed. It was a rainy Tuesday 5 years ago. I had just been promoted to senior underwriter. I went to visit my parents and found them sitting at the kitchen table looking devastated. My father told me the roof was leaking and mold was spreading in the walls. He said it would cost $20,000 to fix, and they did not have it. He cried. My strong, stoic father actually cried. I did not hesitate. I wrote them a check for $20,000 that afternoon. I told them it was my entire savings, even though it was just my quarterly bonus. I wanted to help. 2 weeks later, I drove by the house to see the repairs. There were no contractors. The roof still had the same missing shingles, but in the driveway sat a brand new cherry red sports car. Liam was leaning against it, revving the engine while my parents clapped. I confronted them right there on the lawn. I asked about the roof. I asked about the mold. My mother looked me in the eye and shrugged. Liam needed reliable transportation to get to his auditions, Harper. You have a job. You can make more money. Why are you so selfish? He is your brother. When I demanded they return the money they turned on me, they called me a failure. They said I was jealous of Liam's potential. They told me I was cold and unlovable, and that is why I was single. That was the day I stopped being their daughter and started being a gray rock. I stopped sharing my life. I started dressing down. I let them believe I lost my job and started cleaning floors. It was the only way to stop the bleeding. I shook the memory away and focused back on the phone screen. The live stream was still going. Liam had taken the phone, now turning the camera on himself. He was wearing a suit jacket over a t-shirt, trying to look like a tech mogul. "Listen up, everyone," Liam said, winking at the camera. "Big moves are happening. Monday morning, Jasmine and I are walking into First Horizon Bank. We have a meeting with the big boss, Director H.J. Miller." My hand tightened around my wine glass. He said my name. Well, my initials. He had no idea who H.J. Miller actually was. Jasmine leaned into the frame, resting her chin on his shoulder. "I heard she is a tough woman, but do not worry. We bought her a gift basket with bath bombs and cheap lotion. Women love that stuff. We will charm her. We will tell her about our vision, and she will have to give us the money. $1 million is practically in the bag," my father shouted from the grill. "Show them how it is done, son. Show them what a real Miller looks like, not like your sister scrubbing toilets for minimum wage." Liam smirked at the camera. "Do not worry, Dad. Once we get the funding, we are going to buy this house from you so you can retire, and maybe I will hire Harper to clean the toilets in our new headquarters. I will give her a raise, $50 a week." They all laughed. It was a deep, shared laughter at my expense, a family bonding moment built on my humiliation. I watched for another minute, letting their arrogance burn into my memory. They were celebrating a victory they had not won yet. They were spending money they did not have, and they were mocking the one person who held their fate in her hands. I tapped the screen and ended the video. The apartment was silent again, but the air felt charged with electricity. I stood up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, looking out over the city that I had conquered. They wanted to meet H.J. Miller. They wanted to charm her with bath bombs and lies. They wanted to use my parents' house, the house I grew up in, as collateral for a business that did not exist. I finished my wine in one swallow. I walked to my closet and pulled out my outfit for Monday, a charcoal gray Armani suit silk blouse and 4-inch stilettos. It was sharp. It was professional. It was the armor of an executioner. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. Harper, the janitor, was not coming to work on Monday. The vice president was, and she was going to make sure the family reunion was unforgettable. Monday morning in Chicago broke with a steel gray sky and a biting wind off the lake, but inside the climate-controlled executive suite of First Horizon Bank, the air was still and expensive. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling glass wall of my corner office, looking down at the ant-sized cars crawling along the street 40 stories below. I took a sip of my espresso. It was black hot and cost more per pound than the ground chuck my father had grilled at his barbecue 2 days ago. I smoothed the lapel of my custom-tailored navy blazer. Today was not a day for hiding. Today was a day for power. I had spent the weekend preparing for this moment. I had reviewed every document in the Luxe Fashion loan application. I had pulled credit reports. I had even called a contact at the IRS to verify some income statements that looked suspicious. The file on my mahogany desk was 3 inches thick, and every page was a nail in their coffin. My desktop monitor flickered as I pulled up the live feed from the lobby security cameras. I had asked security to flag their arrival. It was 9:15 in the morning. They were 15 minutes late. There they were, walking through the revolving doors like they owned the building. Liam was wearing a suit that was too tight in the shoulders and too shiny under the lobby lights. It was a cheap polyester blend, likely bought off the rack at a discount store, but he walked with the swagger of a man who had already cashed $1 million check. Beside him, Jasmine was a vision of chaotic color. She wore a neon pink dress that was inappropriate for a business meeting, and she was carrying a large tote bag with a designer logo that I could tell from 40 floors up was a counterfeit. I watched as they approached the reception desk. I turned up the volume on my computer speakers, listening in on the microphone feed. "I am here to see H.J. Miller," Jasmine announced loudly, snapping her gum. "We have a meeting." The receptionist, a young woman named Emily, looked up with a polite smile. "Good morning. May I have your names, please?" "Liam Miller and Jasmine Williams," Liam said, leaning his elbow on the high counter. "We are the founders of Luxe Fashion." "We are expected," Emily typed into her computer. "Ah, yes. Mr. Miller and Miss Williams, you are listed here. Please take a seat, and I will let the director assistant know you have arrived. Can I get you some water or coffee while you wait?" "Coffee," Jasmine demanded, "and make it a latte with oat milk. I do not do dairy." I watched as Emily patiently explained that the lobby only had a standard coffee machine. Jasmine rolled her eyes and huffed loud enough for the security guard by the elevators to turn his head. She accepted a regular black coffee with a look of pure disgust. She took one sip and practically spit it back into the cup. "This is trash," she said loudly. "Liam, did you taste this? It tastes like dirt. Is this how they treat $1-million clients?" Liam patted her arm, but he was looking around the lobby, checking out the marble floors and the high ceilings with greedy eyes. "Do not worry, babe. Once we get the check, we will go to Starbucks. This is just a waiting room. We are about to be in the big leagues." I felt a cold knot of anger tighten in my stomach. They were so entitled, so completely unaware of how the world actually worked. They thought money was something you just asked for and received because you felt you deserved it. They had no idea about the work, the sacrifice, the years of building trust and credibility. Sarah, my assistant, messaged me. They are clearing security now, Ms. Miller, sending them up. I switched the camera feed to the executive elevator. This was the moment I had been waiting for. The elevator ride from the lobby to the 40th floor took exactly 45 seconds. It was a private metal box where people often forgot they were being watched. The doors slid shut, enclosing Liam and Jasmine. They were alone. As soon as the doors closed, Liam let out a whoop of excitement and high-fived Jasmine. "We are in, baby," he said. "Did you see that receptionist? She knew we were important." Jasmine was checking her makeup in the reflective metal doors, adjusting her hair. "I cannot believe we are finally doing this. I am so sick of living in that apartment. When the money hits the account, I am booking a trip to Miami. I need content for my feed." Liam laughed. "Forget Miami. We are buying the house first." I leaned closer to the screen. The house. He meant my parents' house, the one they had put up as collateral. "Yeah, about that," Jasmine said, applying a fresh coat of lip gloss. "Your parents are going to move out, right? I do not want to live with them, Liam. Your mom is always hovering and your dad leaves his socks everywhere." "It is gross." Liam waved his hand dismissively. "Oh yeah, they are gone. As soon as the loan closes and I buy the deed, I am sending them to that condo complex in the suburbs, the one near the airport. It is cheap and they will be fine. I told them we would build them an in-law suite, but that was just to get them to sign the papers. This is our time, Jasmine. I am not sharing my mansion with old people." I stopped breathing for a second. My parents. The people who had coddled him, who had given him everything, who had insulted me to protect his fragile ego. He was planning to evict them. He had lied to them to get their signature, and he was going to throw them into a cheap condo so he could live in their home. It was monstrous, and it was exactly what they deserved for raising him to be a monster. But he was not done. "And what about your sister Jasmine?" asked, smacking her lips together. "Is she going to be a problem? She knows about finance stuff, right? What if she finds out?" Liam snorted. "Harper, are you kidding me? Harper does not know anything about high finance. She scrubs floors, Jasmine. She probably does not even have a bank account with more than $500 in it. She is a loser." He adjusted his tie, looking at himself in the mirror. "Besides, I have a plan for her too. Once we set up the new office for Luxe Fashion, we will need a janitor, right? I will offer her the job. $50 a week to scrub our toilets." Jasmine giggled. "That is generous." "She should be grateful. She will be," Liam said with a sneer. "She is desperate for attention. I will let her clean up our mess, and she will thank me for it. That is all she is good for, anyway, cleaning up after the real successes in the family." The elevator chimed, signaling they had reached the 40th floor. The doors opened. I sat back in my leather chair, my heart beating a slow, steady rhythm of pure rage. $50 to clean his toilets. That was his plan for me. That was his estimation of my worth. I closed the security feed. I did not need to see anymore. I had heard enough. I picked up the file on my desk and straightened the edges. I checked my reflection in the monitor one last time. My eyes were cold. My face was a mask of professional indifference. I was ready. There was a soft knock on my heavy oak door. It opened and Sarah stepped inside. She looked impeccable as always, but there was a hint of tension in her jaw. She had likely smelled the cheap perfume Jasmine was wearing before she even saw her. "Ms. Miller," Sarah said, her voice low and respectful. "Mr. Miller and Miss Williams are here for their appointment." I swiveled my chair around so that my back was to the door facing the panoramic view of the city. I wanted them to see the view first. I wanted them to see the power before they saw the person. "Send them in, Sarah," I said. I heard the door open wider. I heard the click of Jasmine heels on the hardwood floor. I heard Liam take a deep breath, inhaling the scent of expensive leather and old money. "Wow," Liam whispered. "This place is huge." "Check out the view," Jasmine said, her voice hushed with greed. "This is the level we belong at, Liam." "Good morning," my assistant Sarah said behind them. "Please take a seat. Director Miller will be with you in just a moment." I waited. I let the silence stretch out. I let them get comfortable. I let them soak in the atmosphere of the room, believing that they had finally arrived at the destination they thought they were entitled to. "Mr. Miller, Miss Williams," a voice said from the chair. "My voice." "Hello, Director," Liam said, putting on his best business voice. "It is an honor to meet you. We are so excited to share our vision for luxe fashion. We brought you a gift," Jasmine added, "just a little something to say thank you for believing in us." I heard the rustle of a basket being placed on the desk. Bath bombs, cheap lotion, a bribe for a woman they thought was a stranger. I gripped the armrests of my chair. It was time. I slowly spun the chair around. The smile on Liam's face was wide and practiced. Jasmine was already leaning forward, ready to turn on the charm. Then they saw me. The silence that filled the room was absolute. It was heavy and suffocating. Liam's eyes went wide. His jaw literally dropped, his mouth hanging open in a silent O of confusion. Jasmine blinked rapidly, her brain trying to process the image in front of her. The woman in the executive chair, the woman in the $2,000 suit, the woman they had mocked in the elevator 2 minutes ago. Harper, Liam choked out. Jasmine let out a sound that was half gasp, half scream. She stumbled back, her hand flying to her mouth, and in her clumsiness, she knocked her fake designer bag off her shoulder. It hit the floor with a thud, spilling cheap lipsticks and breath mints across the pristine rug. "What are you doing here?" Jasmine shrieked. "You are the janitor. Get out. We have a meeting with the director." I looked at them. I did not smile. I did not blink. I reached out and rested my hand on the thick file labeled Luxe Fashion. "Hello, Liam," I said, my voice ice cold. "Hello, Jasmine. I heard you were worried my office might stink. Does it smell like success to you yet?" Liam stared at me with his mouth hanging open like a fish gasped for air, while Jasmine let out a high-pitched shriek that probably shattered the glass in the lobby 40 floors down. Her hand flew to her chest and she stumbled backward, knocking her oversized tote bag off the edge of the desk. It hit the floor with a heavy thud, spilling cheap lip gloss and breath mints across my Persian rug. "You are the janitor," Liam shouted, his face turning a violent shade of red. "What are you doing in here, Harper? Get out! We are waiting for the director. You are going to get us in trouble." He actually looked around the room as if expecting security to burst in and drag me away. He was so delusional, so wrapped up in his own narrative of superiority, that his brain refused to process what was right in front of his eyes. I did not move. I did not flinch. I just sat there comfortable in my $2,000 chair, resting my hand on the leather-bound file that contained their future. "I am not the janitor, Liam," I said, my voice steady and cold. "And I am not just Harper. Look at the nameplate on the desk." Liam looked. His eyes darted to the heavy crystal block sitting next to his cheap gift basket. He read the engraved letters out loud, his voice trembling. "H.J. Miller, Vice President of Commercial Credit." He blinked, looking from the nameplate to me and back again. "H.J. Miller, Harper Jane Miller." "No," Jasmine whispered, shaking her head violently. "No, that is impossible. You scrub toilets. We saw you. You wear those gross coveralls. You drive a Honda. You cannot be a vice president. This is a prank. Where is the real director?" I stood up slowly, smoothing the front of my silk blouse. I walked around the desk, the heels of my stilettos clicking rhythmically on the hardwood floor. I stopped inches from Jasmine. She smelled like fear and counterfeit perfume. "I wear coveralls when I inspect industrial sites, Jasmine, because unlike you, I actually work for my money. I drive a Honda when I visit you, because I know that if I showed up in my G-Wagon, you would beg me for money. And I am the real director, which means I am the only person standing between you and the $1 million you think you deserve." I walked back to my desk and picked up their loan application. I held it up, letting it hang in the air between us. "Sit down," I commanded. They sat. They collapsed into the guest chairs like marionettes whose strings had been cut. "Now let us talk business," I said, flipping open the file. "I have been reviewing your application for luxe fashion. I have to admit it is creative. In the banking world, we have another word for this kind of creativity. We call it fraud." Liam tried to speak, but his voice was a dry croak. "We did not commit fraud. We hired a consultant. I laughed a dry, humorless sound. You hired a crook, Liam. Let us look at page 4. You claim a projected first-year revenue of $500,000 based on current pre-orders. But when I ran a check on your merchant account, I found exactly 3 orders, 2 from your mother and 1 from Jasmine herself. That is not revenue, Liam. That is lying to a federal institution. I turned the page, and here on page 7, you list your capital investment as personal savings, but I recognize the routing number on this transfer. That comes from a high-risk predatory lender in Nevada known for charging 60% interest. You borrowed money from loan sharks to show the bank you had cash. Do you know what happens when you cannot pay them back, Liam? They do not send you a polite letter. They come for your knees. Jasmine was crying now, silently, tears streaming down her face and ruining her heavy makeup. She looked at Liam, but he could not look at her. He was staring at the file in my hands, his arrogance completely evaporated. And finally, my favorite part, I continued flipping to the back of the file, the tax returns. Jasmine, you list your occupation as social media influencer with an annual income of $80,000. But according to the IRS transcript I pulled this morning, you have reported 0 income for the last 3 years. In fact, you are claimed as a dependent on your mother's return. I slammed the file shut. The sound echoed in the silent office like a gunshot. Bank fraud, wire fraud, tax evasion. If I were just a regular bank officer, I would not just deny this loan. I would be calling the FBI right now. Please, Liam whispered, tears welling in his eyes. Harper, please, we did not know. We just wanted to make something of ourselves. We wanted to make Mom and Dad proud. That was the wrong thing to say. Proud, I repeated, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. You wanted to make them proud by lying to them, by stealing from them. I picked up a remote control from my desk and pointed it at the large flat-screen monitor on the wall. You know the security in this building is state-of-the-art, I said. We record everything, even the elevators, especially the elevators. I pressed play. The screen flickered to life, showing the black and white footage from 10 minutes ago. Liam and Jasmine stood in the elevator thinking they were alone. Their voices rang out clear and crisp through the office speakers. Oh yeah, they are gone, Liam's voice said from the screen. As soon as the loan closes and I buy the deed, I am sending them to that condo complex in the suburbs, the one near the airport. It is cheap and they will be fine. I told them we would build them an in-law suite, but that was just to get them to sign the papers. This is our time, Jasmine. I am not sharing my mansion with old people. I paused the video. The image of Liam's smirking face was frozen on the screen looming over us. In the office, the real Liam had turned a ghostly shade of pale. He looked like he was going to be sick. You were going to evict them, I said, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. Mom and Dad, the people who gave you everything, the people who signed over their home because they believed in you. You were going to throw them into a cheap condo so you could play king of the castle. That is not what I meant, Liam stammered. I was just talking. I was just trying to impress Jasmine. I pressed a button on my phone and the audio from the barbecue started playing. The sound of my father voice filled the room, mocking me, calling me a janitor, saying they saved $50 on meat because I did not come. I listened to it for a few seconds, then shut it off. You see, Liam, I said, they defended you. They insulted me to protect you. And your plan was to betray them the second you got the cash. You are not a businessman. You are a parasite. I picked up a red stamp from my desk. It was heavy metal and cold in my hand. I positioned it over their application. Based on the fraudulent financial statements, the undisclosed high-interest debt, and the severe character risk revealed by your own words, I am rejecting this application with prejudice. I slammed the stamp down. Denied in bright red ink. That means no other bank will touch you, I explained. You are blacklisted, your credit is ruined. And because I am a mandated reporter for financial crimes, I have already forwarded your tax discrepancies to the IRS Audit Division. You might want to hire a lawyer instead of a fashion photographer. Jasmine let out a wail of despair, burying her face in her hands. "My life is over," she sobbed. Liam stood up, his legs shaking. "Harper, you cannot do this. We are family. You are my sister." I stood up too, leaning across the desk until I was inches from his face. "I am not your sister today, Liam. Today I am H.J. Miller, and you are trespassing in my office." I pressed the intercom button. "Sarah, please send in security. I have 2 intruders who need to be escorted out. And Sarah, tell them to bring the air freshener. It suddenly smells like garbage in here." 2 large security guards appeared at the door almost instantly. Liam tried to protest, but they grabbed him by the arms. Jasmine scrambled to pick up her spilled bag, shoving lipsticks back inside while sobbing hysterically. As they were dragged toward the door, Liam looked back at me, his eyes full of hatred and fear. "Mom and Dad will never forgive you for this," he screamed. "You are destroying the family." I sat back down and turned my chair toward the window, looking out at the city I had conquered. "I did not destroy the family, Liam," I said softly to the empty room. "I just took out the trash." I sat in the silence of my office for exactly 5 minutes after security dragged my brother and his wife out of the building. The air smelled of expensive leather and the faint lingering scent of Jasmine cheap perfume, but mostly it smelled like victory. I had one last thing to do before I closed the file on my family forever. I opened my email client and composed a new message addressed to David and Susan Miller. The subject line was simple: "Your retirement plan." I attached the security footage from the elevator, the video where their golden child Liam laughed about evicting them and throwing them into a cheap condo so he could live in their house. I hit send. Then I blocked their numbers. I did not need to be there to know what happened next. The unraveling was swift and brutal. 2 days later, I received a frantic voicemail from a number I did not recognize. It was Liam. He was sobbing. He said the investors from Nevada, the ones charging 60% interest, had come looking for their money. They did not care that the bank loan fell through. They wanted their principal back plus fees. Liam had already spent most of it on a lease for a luxury car he could not afford. He begged me to pay them off. He said they were threatening to break his legs. I deleted the voicemail without listening to the end. Jasmine fared no better. The IRS moves slowly, but when they strike hard. My report triggered an immediate audit of her finances. It turns out claiming $80,000 of income on a loan application while reporting 0 income on tax returns is a federal crime. Her bank accounts were frozen. Her Instagram page, which was her entire life, went silent because she had to sell her phone and her fake designer clothes to pay for a public defender. The luxe fashion dream died before it ever sold a single polyester dress. The most pathetic part was my parents. I heard from a cousin that they watched the video I sent. They watched their beloved son call them old and gross. They watched him plot to steal their home. You would think they would be angry at him. You would think they would apologize to me. But the toxicity of my family runs deep. They called my office line, the only number I had not blocked yet. My mother was hysterical. She blamed me. She said if I had just approved the loan, Liam would not be in trouble with the loan sharks. She said I was cruel for exposing his secrets. She demanded I use my wealth to save him because that is what family does. I listened to her scream for 10 seconds, then I whispered, "Goodbye, Mother." I hung up the phone and unplugged it from the wall. I walked out of First Horizon Bank and I did not look back. 12 hours later, I was sitting in seat 1A on a flight to Paris. The flight attendant poured me a glass of Dom Perignon. I looked out the window as Chicago disappeared beneath the clouds. I saw the grid of streets where I used to scrub floors in my mind to please people who hated me. I saw the suburbs where my brother was hiding from debt collectors. It all looked so small from 30,000 feet. I took a sip of the champagne. It was crisp and cold. My phone was off. My email was set to out of office. My new life was just beginning. I thought about Liam's text message from a lifetime ago. He told me not to come to the barbecue because I would make the party stink. I smiled as I leaned back into the plush leather seat. He was wrong. I did not ruin the party. I just exposed the rot that was already there. And honestly, nothing smells quite as sweet as consequences. This story taught me that blood does not guarantee loyalty. For years, I shrank myself to fit a family that only valued me when I was useful. But I learned that you cannot buy respect from people committed to misunderstanding you. The moment I stopped seeking their validation and started building my own empire was the moment I truly became free. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to cut the anchor dragging you down. Success is not just about money, it is about the freedom to walk away from disrespect. If you have ever chosen your peace over toxic family, hit that like button and subscribe for more.